Oh my god, this movie literally made my childhood. Hey there, this is your math doodle with too much time on his hands, Doodle here with another video. And today, I want to talk about this glorious movie, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. And I wanted to thank everyone who put it in this poll to talk about this trilogy first. This version of Spider-Man is literally my introduction to superheroes in its entirety. Literally everything I enjoy about it came from these movies. Now, are they the most faithful to the comics? No. Are they the most accurate to abilities? Not really. But these are what introduced me to this character and to the worlds of comic books. I'm going to show you how much I love this movie. Yes, I know this is the first one. I have it in this format. Yeah, it's weird because, it doesn't show anything, but it's because I lost it years ago. I had this when I was basically a baby. I have the DVD, everything like that. The original thing is, yes, I even had it in VHS format as a little wee baby child. That was the first one. Then I got the DVD. Then I later on got the full one, so it has all three because I love these series. And I just wanted to talk about the things I love about this movie. I can't be completely unbiased on the film because literally formed me into the person I am. If I never watched this movie, I don't think I would ever really be into comics. But I will try to be as unbiased as physically possible. I will still talk about the things I like. I'm going to show some fun facts about the movie. In the movie, his web shooters, how in the movie, he doesn't have web shooters. He has, organic webbing. That was the first time I ever saw that. See, as a kid, I just thought Spider-Man had organic webbing. And when you're that young, you think everything should be in that format of the movie. So when I got older and I realized Peter had, web shooters, that was the first time I was actually like, you know what? That actually makes more sense. Because even as a little kid, I was more like, hey, how do they have these abilities? How do the webs even work if they all come out of their butt, for spiders? So the web shooters made more sense to me, but I still enjoyed the organic webbing. And then even later on, comics would try to adapt that. But even in the movie, they try to show that he kind of has web shooters who are kind of going to be fake. It's weird. And the costume. Let's talk about the costume first. This costume somehow was able to be completely different from the original Spider-Man design while being the exact same, if that makes sense. And it's all because of bad technology, or the technology they had at the time. Because of the restriction of the blue screen, the webs on the suit wouldn't have popped. So instead, they made it rised up so it can pop out more, and that's why the eyes are the same way. And that's where we got the iconic silver webs. And I do want to say, throughout this film, this is going to weird people out because most people like the second version of the suit more. I actually prefer this version of the suit. You know why? Even though it looks impractical on how a freshman to college person would make this film, it felt more homey. It felt more, I guess, believable. It felt more, I don't know how to explain it besides homey, but that's what it felt like. So I prefer this one more. And I know that the reason why they made new ones later on is because the original ones got stolen and they really couldn't create it like that, so they, thought of updating it. And don't get me wrong, I understand that this movie can be cheesy to some people. But to me, that is the joy. That is the point of Spider-Man. Literally, the entire character of Spider-Man is cheesy. He quips, he makes fun of, he literally has a bright, colorful costume. And speaking of his costume, I didn't know this until years later, because in my mind, to a lot of people's minds, of the way this Peter got his abilities and then how he became Spider-Man was kind of shortened down. Because in the comics, he was actually, the wrestler part, right? But that was only a short time. He actually became a TV entertainer, kind of what a influencer is nowadays. But back then, and that's what the point of the costume. And I know they didn't really put it out there right here, but I like how it became a different message to make his costume, that he was already thinking about it, and that this Peter, Jesus, is an amazing artist. And also something that I love, because people keep saying that people who just love these movies don't like change, don't like how anything can be changed through the new films, with Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, there's changes, right? You know why I say that's BS? Because in this movie, they change stuff about the origin. Uncle Ben, you know, his death was a pure accident. There was nothing beyond that. So, you know that whole scene where Peter and Uncle Ben talk in the car and, Peter just shrugs him off like he's not even his dad?
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Are you afraid that I'm going to turn into some kind of criminal?
And, the sucker punch of him dying hits harder. That's because of this movie. That's what introduced that it's Peter's fault, basically, or his lack of caring for Uncle Ben that caused his death and why he decided to be a hero than just, hey, my uncle died and yes, it is my fault, but that's why I should be a hero. This hits a lot harder, even now. I know people joke about Tobey Maguire's acting with crying, but you know why I don't care about that? Because it's real. This is how a person would genuinely cry, not those one tear versions of it. No, the ugly crying is more realistic, and it sucker punches more. Again, don't get me wrong, a lot of things can be cheesy, and some things can be out of date, like, the CGI doesn't always hold up, but even then, they hide it well enough to where it doesn't really affect it. Like in the scene where, he chases the guy to stop Uncle Ben's killer. Where it transfers him, as the human spider, which I love that design, and where it has Bruce Campbell basically call him Spider-Man, which was beautiful.
The sum of $3,000 will be paid to the terrifying, the deadly, the amazing Spider-Man!
It shows him, climb to the wall. Even then, I know the CGI is bad. Maybe because of the rose-tinted nostalgia goggles I have on, or the nostalgia mask I have on, it doesn't, affect me too much. And it probably is because when I look at old games that I don't have nostalgia for, I just notice the bad CGI or things like graphics like that. So, I get it. I'm personally fine with it. And then, I know there's some jokes don't land well, like, the whole Peter fighting Bonesaw.
Staying away from you. That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?
I know it's wrong, but the reason why I'm not super, annoyed by it, I know it's like basically trying to be a homophobic joke, but in my mind, getting older, I don't think Peter would be like that. So in my mind, I think that he's just kind of saying, what if, who knows, maybe this guy does have a husband. I know there's a lot of ladies, but, that's part of the gig. Be all showboaty. So it doesn't bother me too much. A lot of these things I can't excuse. And, of course, probably nostalgia. You can call me out on that all you want, but I don't care. I enjoy it. If you enjoy it and it has nostalgia, covered goggles, it's okay. Enjoy it. Now, all the characters, all the people who played their respective roles were perfect. Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker was a perfect decision. Now, I know people get really upset nowadays because that's not necessarily how Peter Parker is in the comics. Yes, he is this goofball type person, but he does have more an edge to him. When something pisses him off, it genuinely pisses him off, and he will get mad about it. But this one kind of just, is more upset and more angry about things. Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin was freaking perfect casting. When you hear him in every scene he is in, it is just iconic. Even though he's wearing a mask, you know how much dedication that voice can do when he's putting that on, and you still feel his presence.
I chose my path, you chose the way of the hero. And they found you amusing for a while, the people of this city. But the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying. In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother?
And speaking of, being inside the suit, I get it. The suit is not really comic accurate, and I know they have other versions when they were making it to be more comic accurate, but it would spook more kids. And I looked at them, and it looks beautiful, but it wouldn't have matched the tone or the aesthetic of the film when you compare it to Spider-Man suit, and then like if you look at the concept of what the mask would be, it looks drastically it doesn't feel like the film itself. And I know there's also I'm getting this wrong because I forgot the actor's name. The actor who played Harry, beautiful. That when I see that guy, it oozes off Harry Osborn for me. It could be just again nostalgia, but it works so well. Oh, and speaking of perfect casting in this film, we gotta talk about the one and only J.K. Simmons, who played J. Jonah Jameson so perfectly. He literally embodied that man.
Who is Spider-Man? He's a criminal, that's who he is. A vigilante, a public menace. They're crap. Crap, mega crap. I'll give you $200 for all of them. Man, I knew you two were in this together.
Hey, kiddo, let mom and dad talk for a minute, will you?
And even later on, he still plays the same character. Well, differently, but still the same character. And you know what's funny that took me a long time to really notice? That nothing he wore, the hair, the mustache, was none of his. It was just added on later on, which is funny to think about, because I legit thought that was his actual hair. His charisma, his douchebaggery, the way he's portrayed is so faithful to the comics in the best way possible. I love his role in this movie. And then we have Kristen Dunst as Mary Jane. I can never defend it. Even as a kid, I did not like her version of Mary Jane. And this was my first interpretation of Mary Jane, if you think about it. This was what my introduction of what MJ is supposed to be. Yeah, they kind of got the party girl kind of in there, and her growth is there, with the abusive parents and all that stuff is there. But it doesn't go past that. And then there's that whole situation where MJ, dates Harry, which is fine, because Harry basically becomes a douchebag and kind of takes Peter's line because Peter won't do anything. So there's that. And I know there's another thing people get really weirded out by, that Peter basically lives with Harry and doesn't have to worry about rent. But they fix it in the second movie. And then there are scenes in the movie where I love too, like in the Thanksgiving scene, where, everything is super tense, and where basically Goblin finds out that Peter is Spider-Man just by a cut, and how it was. Also, we got this iconic meme to go with that.
Hey, everyone.
Oh, Peter.
Hey. Sorry I'm late. It's a jungle out there. I had to beat an old lady with a stick to get these cranberries.
Everything in this movie was just so well put together. And I just want to point out one thing. At the beginning, where MJ falls on Peter's, arms, where he had to hold that lunch pan with the food coming on, that was real. Because CGI would be really hard to make that, they literally did that so many times. I'll put the number here because I don't remember. But they did this many times to get to that point, which is cool. And then made me think of the actual intro. Okay, this may sound stupid, but being very little, was I the only one who thought that Peter's, webs, the silver webs he has in the suit, did anyone think they were actually the webs he made himself? This was before I knew that the webs that would only last for an hour or maybe two. I didn't know that, it would only last that much. So I just kept thinking that, hey, he actually put it in the suit and that's why it's all silvery. That was my reason. And that's why. And the reason why I thought that is because the beginning credits of the film were showing the Spider-Man, forming, and then the webs would go on his body. And that's where I thought that. I know it's just aesthetic reasons and they were making that because it was cool. And it was. But that's why I thought that it was, for the webs. That the webs were Peter's. Now, the story of Peter becoming Spider-Man at the same time when Norman becomes the Goblin is really fascinating. And that intro where Peter gets bit by the spider and that collage freaks me out to my core. And I should mention that this movie kind of was more inspired by the Ultimate comics, were made in the 2000s, and literally the 2000s, a year before I was born. So they kind of got inspiration on the genetically altered spider instead of just a radiated spider. So that's where they got that idea.
Combining the genetic information from all 3 spiders into these 15 genetically designed super spiders.
I think that's just the best way to do the spider nowadays because, it was genetically made to be different instead of just radiation giving it an ability. I know that's kind of how most things happen. And that's what stuff I like from there that were made it into the film. Super fantastic. And I know some fight scenes in the movie kind of felt kind of Power Ranger-esque kind of thing. But hey, I love Power Rangers, so what are you going to do about it? And one thing that I would like to say that has, been in the back of my mind for so long is how in this film and all the other films, the blue, how I talked about, the restrictions caused the iconic silver webs on the red and how it was more orangey. That's why I kind of felt it was more homey. The blue, I love the blue they did. You know why? It looked like black in so many angles. And more shots, it would look more black than it was blue. And if it looked blue, it looked more like highlights, which then looked like the comics. And yeah, it is blue. But in so much lighting, it looks black. And don't tell me that's not cool. This movie is just so cozy to watch in so many times. I know in the end, they did this message of, New York backing Spider-Man, which is a nice thing just in general for Spider-Man. But I understand the significance because of what happened literally the year before of, 9/11. They even had this commercial where Spider-Man would web up like some criminals next to the Twin Towers, and they had to cut it because of what happened. But you can actually see a shot in the movie that I like to pause many times of Spider-Man's first introduction having the Twin Towers shot in the lens, which is super cool to see. And, still kind of there because probably they shot it already. This movie was just something else for me. Not just a good movie. It was my childhood. It was literally the start of my love for anything superhero, anything Spider-Man to be exact. So you can say it's nostalgia that makes me love this movie. It is. But what's the problem of having something you like be very nostalgia based? Again, this movie literally formed my being. I will say this, I'm not going to reveal anything on my face, but my hairstyle literally was modeled off that version of Spider-Man with the hair slicked back or sided. And because of this version of Spider-Man, I wanted glasses. I know he took them off later on when he got his powers, but that made me so badly want glasses. And then immediately regret them when I actually needed them. No, it's really weird. This movie means so much to me, and I will rewatch this movie until I probably die. So that's my thoughts on the first Spider-Man movie. And I will make my thoughts on the second movie, so be careful for that. And so if you like this video, please drop a like, comment what you thought of the film. Did you like it? Too nostalgia bait? Tell me in your comments down below. I really would like to know. Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? And tell me if you grew up with the film or not. And if you want to see more like these, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified whenever these videos come out. I make them every Wednesday at this time. It doesn't change. At least I'm not going to try to get that to change. So it's going to be at that time. There you go. So this has been Dudamite, and I hope to see everyone in the next video.